Today, some really fun stuff. We're gonna talk about what I think is the absolute best headlamp yet for wildlands photographers to throw in their bags. It's a brand new version of it. We're gonna talk about snowshoes, a couple different kinds that really work for shooting in snow, as well as why I recommend the specific tripod heads that I recommend and not some similar ones that I'm frequently asked about. Well, hey everyone, Hudson. Before I jump in and start talking about some of the fun new gear that I've been using, a few quick announcements. Again, like always, there's a chaptered table of contents in the video's full description. Just click the title or show more, along with affiliate links to everything that I'm talking about or videos that I reference. If you use those affiliate links, thank you so much. There's always updated links to all the gear that I use at www.hudsonhenry.com/ATS links. I want to invite everyone to the office hours that we're running on April 6th, Tuesday, April 6th, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's free. You can join us via Zoom and be interactive. You can watch it on YouTube Live. It'll be archived on YouTube. We're going to talk about traveling. Traveling's opening up again. Lots of us are booking cool destinations. I've got workshops launching. If they're not up yet, keep checking back at hudsonhenry.com/workshops. I'll be launching workshops for the Tetons, Moab, Yellowstone, Brookings, Oregon. Cuba's up right now. There's only one spot left in it. So this office hours, we're going to be talking about travel. I'd love for you to submit your favorite travel photograph and leave a travel tip when you sign up. There'll be a form for you to enter a travel tip, upload a photograph. We'll throw out some fun free swag to people whose travel photographs we love, maybe the top 3. And we'll go through images, talk about the travel tips, take your questions live. It's just gonna be a fun get together. Again, April 6th, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Sign up at hudsonhenry.com/office hours. All right, so when I got down from Mount St. Helens and put that video up last week, I had a number of emails and questions from people about shooting in cold, about shooting in snow. And I've had questions over the years about that. And one of the frequent questions is, how do you work with a tripod in the snow? It's a lot like working with a tripod in the sand. It keeps sinking, except it happens faster. And it's really hard to get your tripod set and locked in. And if you're just using kind of a basic set of tripod feet like this, they're just gonna keep sinking down. If you throw on spikes, which are amazing in the sand, these are my old Really Right Stuff tripod spikes, they'll just keep sinking into the snow deeper and deeper and deeper. They're great in shifting sand that gets tighter and tighter the more sand is laying on top of it, and then they lock into place even as waves roll through. They're not so great in the snow. Rock claws, which are amazing when you're out in the high alpine environment or working in rocky streams. They just have these little claws that lock in. They're wonderful. Not so great in the snow. Well, I'm going to show you the feet that I carry with me these days. I got my little ultralight set of Leofoto legs here, and I always carry along the right Allen wrench that'll sort of fit through. I got a couple different ones that'll fit through that little hole in the feet, and you can pull those feet off if you want, or lock them on tight. All my favorite tripod feet generally have a little hole to just put one of the Allen wrenches that you have with you through and torque on. These are Leofoto's TFS feet. I've done a whole video about that. I'll link that in the video's description along with the product link to these. They're really cool because they're about the same size as the Really Right Stuff version, but they're shaped different. They're innovative. They're gasketed at the same way, but they have this cool little hard plastic cap that you can roll on there if you're working on a hardwood floor or on a surface that you don't want to mar up with the point. Or if you're putting them on your camera bag and you don't want to cut your leg while you're taking the bag off or run them into somebody. You got to keep good track of these little things, but they're great. So there's 2 sets of snowshoes now that Leofoto's come out with. They asked me if I wanted to test them. I said, heck yeah. And I thought I'd go out when I was up near Mount St. Helens and just throw tripod legs in the snow and show you what I'm talking about. So when you're working with just a straight up spike, it's not so great in the snow. It just keeps sinking and sinking and sinking. When you throw one of these really cool lightweight plastic snowshoes on there, now these take a little room in your bag, But the cool thing is whatever foot you happen to have on your tripod, you just put these rubber pieces around and boom, there it is. You can spin it around and it basically acts as a snowshoe on your tripod. It works really effectively. The tripod barely sinks in the snow. You just put all three of them on there, kind of stamp them in, boom, you're set. They're a little big and bulky in your pack though. So there's a whole nother set that they offer, and I'll link both of these in the product description. I don't remember the exact name of them, but you'll find them both in the product description. I'll call them snowshoes and ski pole tips. But you pull your foot off that you'd normally be using. If you're out in the snow, you probably don't need anything but these. And they're essentially a spike along with a basket. And so you just thread that guy on there. And like all the feet that I like best, Leofoto put a little hole through these. These are really cool and innovative. You know, I'm a backcountry skier and a cross-country skier, and I'm used to ski poles that have, oh, I just put it on upside down. Show what a great backcountry skier and cross-country skier I am. You wanna put this point through the basket facing that way, thread it on, and torque it, boom. And now, this one sinks a little bit more than these huge snowshoes, but if you're limited on how much weight you can be carrying in your bag, or how much, actually they're about the same weight. If you're limited for space in your bag, these are light, they're about the same weight, but this takes up a lot less space in your bag, and your tripod folds up nicer together with them. So these are a really universal. These I could picture myself taking on more of a backpacking trip in the snow or ski mountaineering trip. These are probably going to be more car-based photography in the snow, but they both work well. This one works even better, as you can see in the little clips that I shot with my cell phone of them in the snow. So really, really cool stuff. So I would say that what I'm generally going to be carrying with me for tripod feet, you know, I think it's good to think about tripod feet as you would think about shoes for your own feet. You wouldn't wear dance shoes to go mountain climbing. You wouldn't wear mountain climbing shoes to go dancing. You wouldn't, you know, wear work shoes to go to the opera, and you wouldn't wear, you know, dress shoes to go work at a construction site. So I think that the kind of feet that tend to come with tripods are generally either these nice kind of rubber, safe, easy to throw down on a hardwood floor feet. You know, these are from Leofoto that came with this tripod. They're really nice. They hold really well. Gitzo's latest high-end tripods have been coming with these kind of almost ball head-like articulating flat feet. This one's getting all gray and oxidized, even though I've never used it. I just took it off of the last Gitzo tripod I got. And that's a little tip for people using the Gitzo tripods. I feel like if you have an old Gitzo tripod that you adore, enjoy it. The new ones just have let me down a bit of late. But you know, these are handy if you're working on a flat surface. They can even work in forests and mountains if you kind of align them with the surface that you're working on. I find them a little bit of a pain in the butt. I would rather carry these little just rubberized kind of pointed tips than these shoes. Plus these are heavy. A set of these spikes I think are just essential. I absolutely adore them. And I really love the Leofoto ones with the removable top cap. I have a whole video about these again. And then I tend to keep these on my smaller, lighter weight tripod because even though it gets to eye level without these, it gives them about 4 more inches of height too. So it adds a little height to a shorter tripod. I think they're super versatile. I could use these in almost any situation. When it comes to Rocky Mountain streams or granite situations where you're on a steep slope and you want your leg to lock in, they're really nice. And so those are something. I generally keep a little bag with me, and I keep rock claws in there. You know, I keep spikes in there. I keep the flat pieces in there, and I keep a couple of Allen wrenches to trade them in and out. And if I'm going in the snow these days, or if I have a chance of going in the snow, I'll toss in these ones with a little basket. This is a little Think Tank clear plastic faced bag. It's real easy to dig in here and get exactly what you want without peering into it, even with a headlamp in the dark. I'll put a link to that bag too. I love these things. I keep a lot of computer cords and things in those. All right, So speaking of headlamps, that's part 2 of this video. So for years and years, I've recommended, and I see a lot of people turn up to workshops with different headlamps. And when we go to work at night, a lot of them, when they go to turn on their headlamp in the dark, they go through a blinding white phase and blow everyone's night vision. My favorite thing about the Princetontec Vizz headlamp is that when you push the button, it goes red initially. If you push the button again, it turns off. If you wait a little bit, push the button again, it goes red. You have to double click it to get to the super bright white. And that is super bright. And you have to triple click it to get to the dimmer sort of reading or cooking white lamp. So you got 3 different modes. The new one has fixed kind of all the problems that I had with the original one. First of all, it looks identical. They're the same size, they take the same number of batteries, but the new one, instead of being 210 lumens in its super bright mode, is, as you can tell, 420. It's double the intensity. All 3 modes have a dimmer. So that's true. Even the red mode now has a dimmer. The old one's red mode was just a little brighter than maybe you need. This is still on right now, but it's much, much dimmer. All 3 modes have a dimmer. And the old one, if you triple click the button, would lock itself so that you had to triple click it to use it again, which is really nice when you're throwing it in a packed camera bag. Have you ever had your headlamp accidentally get turned on and the battery is dead when you actually reach in to use it? It was kind of hard to get the triple click timed just right. The new one, they took note of that. Now if you hold it down, the red light comes on. If you hold it for 5 seconds, it flashes 3 times, the red light goes out, and now it's locked. No matter what I do, unless I hold that button down for 5 seconds, it's locked and you can't burn the battery out. So for me, this is the dream headlamp for anyone who does night photography and doesn't want to blow their night vision. You actually have to double click it to get to a white mode. And it's really, really difficult unless you forget to lock it to burn the batteries out in the bag. So there you go. That's my idea of the best headlamp. So now I want to talk just for a second about tripod heads, and I get so many emails from people. I did a video recently about how much weight the 500 AH actually can hold, particularly for still photographers or for people doing, wildlife photography with modern lighter weight lenses. I still think a gimbal, like I've got back in the corner, is the ultimate head for people that are doing, 600 millimeter fast primes with big pro DSLR bodies that are super heavy. But using any of my modern cameras, even with the 500 PF and a teleconverter, there's no way to get flop. This thing works great. If I have any choice at all, I want my 500 AH. It holds every lens I might conceivably use. And the fluid in it just makes working with it so nice. When I'm composing, everything is smooth and I can let go and nothing goes really anywhere. It's just the fluid makes it a joy to work with. The pan and tilt are super easy to lock out with just a quarter turn and I'm back to working. Quarter turn, I'm locked. I can lock one or the other. It's just wonderful. And if you're doing video work, the movements are so smooth and nice. So people ask me all the time, the 502 holds even more weight. Shouldn't I get that? Or the 504? And I got to tell you, I've had people show up to workshops with those heads because they think bigger is better and holding more weight is better. And in every case, when they work a little bit with my tripod and compare it to their tripod, they're selling that head and buying a 500 AH. It's just the right size for those of us who do hybrid mirrorless or DSLR film and still photography work. And it weighs the same as a Really Right Stuff BH55. It's 2 pounds. And with the Kirk bridge adapter and rotating Arca Swiss clamp and a nodal slide to get nice and balanced over the top of it, it's just a dream to work with. All right, so I want to talk for a second too about the Acratech Panorama head that I recommend. And I get a lot of people asking me about various heads that look a lot like the Acratech panorama head and cost a fraction of its price. And I'll show you what's different about the two and why the Acratech is worth spending the money on. So let me set up a couple tripods and I'll come back and I'll talk to you really fast about what's so great about this particular head. All right, so there aren't that many tripod heads, fluid heads, that are really in the 500 AH's category, that 2-pound ultralight does-it-all Swiss Army knife of a tripod head, at least yet. But the success of Acratech's panoramic head and long lens head, a number of prominent landscape photographers have sort of switched over from ball heads to this because it just makes more sense. There have been a whole bunch of people popping up, kind of emulating it, and a lot cheaper versions out there. And I'm constantly getting questions from people, about, shouldn't I get this one for half the price? And I'm just going to tell you, I think Acratech, when it comes to all the companies that are making equipment out there, just the attention to detail and the perfection that they seek in each product that they make, whether it's the GXP ball head that I love or this panorama head that I love, is just kind of amazing. Now, I would still prefer, if weight's no issue, the primary tripod, if I'm carrying both, is going to be the 500 AH because I love that fluid. Acratech's actually working on a sort of hybrid fluid head that I'm excited to try out. But the great thing about this head is it weighs a pound, and it is tiny and small and packs down. So a lot of times I'm carrying both. I'm filming myself, or I'm doing time lapse while I'm doing stills, or one thing or another. And I like having two tripods. So this little 4-pound, ultralight Leofoto setup, it's less than 4 pounds with the leveling adapter that's built in the panorama head, is perfect for me. And let's just look at a few of the differences. So, I love the clamp. I guess that's one of the first things. This is an option with Acratech, but you can go with a lever clamp that's adjustable for whatever ARCA bracket you're using. And all you do is drop your camera and click. If you're using their twist lock, their twisting clamp, it's a quarter turn from open to closed, basically. Maybe it's one motion, open and closed, really easy to do. The other great thing about this one is, if like me, you'd rather use a nodal slider to kind of get balanced over the head, there's a simple, you don't even need a toolless way to just rotate and then spin that back. It's right underneath the clamp in that open space underneath the head. And all of a sudden you can go into a different orientation for a long lens or a nodal slide like I have right here, and all of a sudden you can get balanced so that there's less chance of a catastrophic flop. Now with this head without the fluid, you still need to set the base tension. We'll get to that in just a minute. And you gotta make sure it's snug. There it is. But with a quarter turn, you're tight. If I loosen that, I can sort of open the clamp a little bit and get where I want to be, where I'm more leveled, and even a little bit more right about there. All right, good to go. This other version from a company I work with a ton. I love their legs. I love their leveling adapters. But there's no way to rotate this clamp. If I wanted to go in a different orientation, I'd have to put another clamp in this clamp. Happily, it's set up so that I can drop my, my long lens or my nodal slide in it, but I have to turn it 6 times to get locked. It's a little bit of a pain. So you really need the nodal slide to work with a shorter lens on this head. All right, so that said, let's talk about the base tension issue. Both of these heads have nice scales on them. When I'm doing panoramas, I don't tend to look at scales. I look at the grid view on the back of my camera and just watch it as I turn and fire remotely, turn. I'm just watching the landscape move through the grid. In the old days, pre-live view, I used to live by that scale, the degree scale on the head. Both these have that. If you're someone who loves looking at the degree scale, or you're working old school without live view, they have it in both tilt and pan, so you're kind of set there. Both of them have nice big bubble levels that make leveling up these heads from beneath just a breeze. Here I have my built-in leveling adapter on my lightweight, ultra lightweight Leofoto tripod setup. Here I have kind of a traditional half ball adapter. I really love the way that Leofoto does their adapters just because it's so close to the head. You can kind of keep a hand on it while you get it set and looking at the level. Acratech's level is just a thing of beauty. You can sort of see it from any angle. Now, I'm going to throw my camera back on this guy. Get that off there. Lock it in. And one thing that you can do with the Acratech, so I'm a little off level, it wants to fall, but there's just a really, I mean, a less than a millimeter of turn of this nice rubber, feels great in your hand knob, and you can set the base tension so there's no flop with whatever lens you're working with, from long to short. And then a quarter turn of that big knurled knob, which is completely different looking and feeling. There's no mistaking the two, and you're locked. Nothing's moving. You can't force it. Just a little quarter turn. You don't ever need to over tighten this head. Just a little quarter turn. It's two different mechanisms. One sets the base tension, one sets a lock, all right? And there's a lock for pan. Boom, like that. You know, and it's nice and smooth, easy. So, seems a simple thing. Throw it over to this other less expensive head, do the 6 turns, and now let's just try. Both these knobs look identical. They're nice, big, easy to turn knurled knobs. If I turn the right one, I've got it pretty tight. Really torquing it. I can still move it. All right. Well, so is that setting any kind of base tension? Not really. It still wants to flop, or it's not quite tight enough to lock. If I turn the other one, well, it's a little harder to move. Now I got them both pretty tight. I can still move this head. What really happens is one's clamping one side, one's clamping the other. Neither one is setting any kind of base tension. Yeah, you can lock it down to where it's not going to move, but it's not really locked. Even though I'm kind of torquing it, I can still move it. Now, I want you to compare that. Just one quick second. I'm going to grab the heaviest setup that I really ever use off my Leofoto gimbal, the PG1. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to loosen my tension to get it kind of somewhat. Yeah, that's good. And lock it, all right? And now, you know, we've got, let's see. Let's just prove how good this little 1-pound head is. Let's say I set my base tension just a little bit more so it's not flopping. It's not flopping, even tilted back with all the weight kind of off. And then if I turn that a quarter turn, I can't even move it. Let's try, I don't know that I'd do that with the other head. So there's a reason I recommend, if you can afford it, splurge on the Acratech stuff. I mean, it's amazing that this thing weighs a pound, is rated to hold 25 pounds, and I think I just proved you have no problem holding a lot of weight with it. Again, you know, if all things are even, I'll take the Manfrotto 500 AH fluid head to work with every day of the week with every lens I'm working with, unless I'm specifically shooting sports or birds and wildlife with an ultra long lens and a big heavy body, in which case I want that Leofoto PG1 gimbal. And I'll put videos about the PG1 gimbal, about this tripod and head setup, about my favorite Manfrotto setup. I think you all know about that, along with links to the products in the video's description. So, all right, everybody, I think that's it. I hope people will join me for office hours. Again, that's April 6th, 10 a.m. Pacific. We're going to talk about travel. Submit your images, hudsonhenry.com/office hours. Links to everything that I use are at hudsonhenry.com/ATS links. For just a short period of time, ON1 is still selling the photo kit that my good friend, the amazing instructor Rick LePage, who runs workshops with me. Many of you know him from office hours and workshops. He and I have worked on this photo course for people that use ON1 for mastering contrast and using your histogram both in the field and in the editing process to really control tone and shoot for the edit and edit for the shoot. It's a cool photo kit, lots of presets, lots of videos, bonus videos, all kinds of high-end it's basically a master's course on raw processing, finish editing, shooting for that histogram, and thinking about the data as you move through your process. We've gotten great feedback on it. It's half off for a limited time, and I'll put a link to that in the video's description as well. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks so much. Again, thanks to everybody who's been liking, sharing, subscribing, supporting the channel, sending in questions. Your interests, comments, questions really drive the content on this channel. I couldn't do it without you. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.